Hello, everyone's Forest Focus as Nottingham Forest take a step in the right direction with a point against Manchester United. With games against Graz and Leeds to come this week, is this the week where the tide finally turns, or are choppy waters still ahead of us? Joining me to discuss all that and more, first of all, is Pete Blackburn. Morning or afternoon even, Pete. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Happy to be here after a slightly more positive weekend, so all good.
Yeah, good. I normally do this in the morning, but it is a little bit later, so good to have people with us. Michael Temple, good to have you with us. How are you?
Good, mate. Tide is turning from where I'm sitting. I think we've stabilised.
Hopefully so. We'll ask David Prutton what he thinks. Prutz, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on. It's nice to be back with you three wonderful men and all of our viewers and listeners.
It's been a while. You had hair last time you were on.
It's deceptive, seriously. Not that you need to see me in the flesh. No one needs to see that. But on this little screen, yeah, looks like I've been detained.
Is this like a sort of personal crisis, or what's happened?
It's a midlife crisis in real time, Pete. So if you want to kind of keep abreast of it, then we'll exchange numbers and I'll keep you informed.
Right, just before we get into it, we normally do this kind of stuff at the end, but we'll do it at the start this time and mention what happened with the horrible train attack at the weekend. People will have seen the statement that Forest put out, a really fantastic gesture from Evangelos Marinakis and the club, saying they'll pay for the best possible medical care for any fan who was injured as they recover, and highlighting one fan in particular who's been in the news and on a lot of social media, Stephen Crean, who seems quite a well-known fan amongst the fan base from London area. He was on the train and he fought the attacker and ended up with some pretty severe injuries for his bravery. So a big well done and a big get well soon to him for everything he did. And obviously thoughts for the people who were victims of a particularly horrific situation. So I thought we should mention that at the top. And once again, well done, Stephen. Don't think you'll need to buy a pint in Nottingham anytime soon, and nor should you. Right, let's get to the football then. Temps, kick us off. General thoughts on the game. What did you make of it?
We've done well against Man United at home for a significant period of time now. I thought that was a really good display. And to the point I made at the outset, I think the first thing Sean Dyche had to do was stabilise the club, which was in free fall on the pitch. I think we'd suffered from too many injections, too many different styles, too many funky team selections, experiments over the past few weeks and months, that he realised that his brief was just to pick his best 11 players. And whilst it may indeed bite us in the fact that we are now relying on the same 11 lads to play week in, week out, he's just done the logical thing. 4-2-3-1, best boys on the pitch, make them feel empowered, make them feel positive, let them try things and translate that into results on the pitch. It was a game in which all three results were possible. We've come out with a point, a 2-2 draw against a resurgent Man United team, and we now have the chance to compound that by getting something against Graz and beating Leeds at home next weekend. And if we do that, I think the mood around the camp, the team, the media perspective, which Brooks will tell us about in a minute, changes entirely, because it's not about Forest in free fall. That's been arrested and we can start to move forward. And I think in the next few weeks, we will find ourselves easing out of that relegation zone. Nuno hasn't done us any favours, has he? I don't think anyone saw West Ham turning over Newcastle. But let's focus on what we can control, get our own house in order. Dyche's picking a logical team. They're responding to it. And the football we're playing is now far more effective than it was during Ange's reign.
I watched that Newcastle game. Newcastle were absolutely horrific. I don't know where that came from. West Ham played well, but Newcastle looked like they wouldn't have scored against anyone. I don't know where that came from. So you can't judge any result, obviously, I guess. Which sort of leads into Prutz's attempt said there, wider perceptions. It feels like everyone else who isn't a Forest fan thinks we'll be fine in the media as well. Are you feeling that right now, or are you still worried for your former team?
Well, I mean, concerned in the sense of how quickly things can change. I think someone's already mentioned about how well Sunderland have done. They've certainly getting their work done ahead of time from a team that's climbed back into the top division and going from what Forest were, which was swimming along nicely and looking to build on an historic finish last season. It's been a real reality check, hasn't it? I go along with what Temps is saying. There is that air of positivity. You do feel with Sean coming in that there is a man there that understands what the criteria is. He understands what the first port of call is, which is building consistency, building confidence. There's so much to address from a set piece point of view, which I'm sure, knowing a little bit of Sean's methods like I do, he it will be something that will be sticking in his craw so very much. And it's not too hard at the moment, is it, to score against Forest, which I'm sure is a frustration for everyone involved. But that positivity that comes from you go a goal down, there is a resilience to what Forest did with regards to a very, very quick reaction to it in just a couple of minutes. But then there's stuff to address when you are hanging on to some degree towards the end. So I do agree with what Temps is saying. I think the broader media take on Forest is because of the good work done last season that they'll be all right, as in they'll be all right in the sense of by the end of the season, it will be all hunky-dory. But I can understand why there's an air of trepidation and a bit of cynicism, because what we've become accustomed to watching Forest is things going relatively well, haven't we? So now hopefully it's not harking back to the first couple of occasions back in the Premier League where it was all about survival, because the changes that we made were brought in to make that the football club better than what it was, which hasn't happened. And Dyche's first port of call is, as Temps is saying, not just jumping on his point, is consistency, confidence, and an ability to be hard to beat, which there are huge signs of that from that Man Utd game.
Newcastle haven't won an away game this season. They've drawn 3 and lost 2. Just had a quick look at that. So I think that extends back into last season. Yeah, I haven't changed my opinion at all, really. I still think we'll be fine, but it'll be a rocky road with some ups and downs. I think Temps is right. The Leeds and Graz games could change things, especially the Leeds things. Just in general, quickly, Pete, has this moved the needle at all for you, or are you exactly where you were before?
No, it hasn't moved the needle, but partly because I was probably telling myself to be a bit more positive than maybe I was when I was actually looking at the table and such like, there's a little bit of bravado about that. But it is nice to have had a performance that feels like it justifies me saying last time I was on that I do think we'll be fine. I don't see how it's possible, unless some real sort of cultural rot has set in during that period of mess and chaos. I don't see how it's possible for the rest of the season to play out as chaotically and as badly as those first 9 games. I don't see how it's possible that a Sean Dyche team doesn't improve from being the worst set-piece team in the league. I don't see how a manager as experienced in these moments as he is going to really, struggle to that extent. All I can see is improvement, and I don't mean to sound sort of complacent about that. I'm not saying it's going to be a cakewalk. There will be difficult moments, and there are parts of the squad where we have weaknesses that could be sort of shown up and all that sort of stuff. But I just do think that all the evidence suggests, particularly when you combine it with a look down the squad list, that we should be a team that will improve. And it won't be easy, but I think we steadily will do that. And I think we've seen the first signs of that in the games against Porto and United. And I'm happy to write off the Bournemouth game to an extent, because it just looked like a team that was absolutely shattered. Perhaps a mistake to play the team he did, and I think he talked about that. Who knows? But I think from here on in, the consistency of the sort of Dyche selections in the league will hopefully help us keep growing that sort of confidence. And we'll go onwards and upwards. It might be slow, but I think it will be sort of steady, and I think that's perfectly acceptable for right now.
Yeah, I think so. Long road ahead, but I think we'll be all right. So you don't think, Temps, it's not one of those we'll live to regret? You're winning with, I think it was 10 minutes to go or something. You can't see it out. You don't see it that way, or does the Leeds result dictate that?
Like perhaps anyone that's watched that game, I'm concerned about the set pieces, and despite having found a way to score and seemingly had our centre halves recapture some kind of form, we were still out jumped by Casemiro at a corner, and arguably we didn't close down the second goal quickly enough or aggressively enough. So that there are still things to work on. There's still challenges there, and there's still reasons why we're not a top 10 club this season. But I think we've got more than enough depth and quality and improvement from within to get to where we need to be, which is outside those bottom 3 places first and foremost. So no major concern from me. I think that there are clearly things to work on, and set piece defence being such a strength last season, it's frustrating that that's haunting us again and continues to do so. But it feels fixable, and I don't think there are particular things we need to solve through the transfer market. I think it's on the training ground. I think it's in performances, and it's through personal standards of individual players.
So how do you fix the set pieces, Prutz, beyond work hard on the training ground? Is there anything more to it? Do you have to change the setup completely? How do we do it? Well,
I mean, if you take the Casemiro goal, for example, that's as straightforward a set piece as you're going to see. Now, the starting 11 or the 11 players that are on the pitch as and when that ball comes into the box is more than capable of dealing with that. And when it's kind of framework as in work needs to be done on the training pitch, that's a suggestion that you need more input from the coaches. In that instance, I don't agree with that at all. You've got stacks of experience. If Casemiro is your man, don't let him head the ball. It sounds very simple and common sense. And it's got quite sexy, hasn't it? Set pieces and set piece coaches and specialists in that area. But when you've got a real presence like Forest do have, then it's not remotely Sean Dyche's fault that ball ends up in the back of the net, because there's nothing. It's just literally a decent ball into a dangerous area, which ends up in the back of the net because they get first contact. Now, the desire's got to be from Forest to have first contacts on the ball into the box to defend your cage at all costs. I'm not saying it's a lack of desire from Forest's point of view. Do they look a little bit sleepy? I thought they might have done it. I thought they did to a degree in that instance. Yes, the debate about whether it's a corner or not may be raging certainly in the fans' minds, but in the players, you've got to switch off from that and switch on to what your next job is, which is keeping the ball out the back of the net. And then, as and when the game develops, you look at Amad Diallo's goal, you look at the clearance off the line. There's in those positions at the end of a game, there is kind of panic stations and all hands to the pump. But that's where the very best players and the most consistent players have the cool heads to make sure that they can deal with that, because your job's still the job's still in front of you. It's still going on, isn't it, until the final whistle. And I'm sure that Sean will just be reaffirming alongside Ian Woan and Steve Stone to the players about responsibility at set pieces. That doesn't change from League Two all the way up to the Premier League. There's a big fashion thing this season about set pieces, but set pieces have always decided matches, haven't they? So when you talk about how well Forest did to get back in the game, you'd be doubly impressed if they'd managed to keep Man United out from a corner, which, as I said, was in no way a kind of intricate or mind-blowing, just a decent ball into the box and them getting first contact, which as a manager will be incredibly frustrating, as a playing staff will be, and from fans' point of view, where you're looking at it going, well, whoever's closest to Casemiro has got to try and mark him first and then head the ball second. They didn't do the job, and I'm not saying there's any willful neglects from not doing the job. They've just got to be better. Quite frankly, they've just got to be better. And the players that are on that pitch in that squad with that experience should be doing better from those instances.
So I don't think Sels could have come for that particular. There was a lot of bodies in the way.
Very crowded. It's very crowded. And I think even in the sense of, without it being fingers collectively pointed at Sels, the one that was cleared off the line, unless I get my Diallo,
he flapped at that. That's what I was going to say. Do you want to be more commanding?
Well, yeah, he went. Yeah. I don't know what on earth he was doing. He came out flapping about it. I mean, the obviously there was debate in the Bournemouth game as well from a corner where there's a little nudge where he's halfway in the air. Got to be more dominant of your 6-yard box than that. You got a relatively short striker next to you. It's one of them. Chuck him out of the way. Come and claim the ball. And when it is all hands to the pump at the end of the game, where it's looking a bit ragged, your goalkeeper doing that doesn't instill confidence to get you over the line for the final few minutes. Yeah,
that's what I was going to say. I thought he needs to be much more commanding with the last one. I mean, do you want Pete, a keeper who just comes for everything? I mean, Sels was nominated for the world's best goalkeeper award. It feels like trying to get him to do something completely different seems strange, but he's not. He doesn't command his box. So do we need more from him there or not?
He doesn't, and he never really has done. He's never really been that sort of goalkeeper, has he? And I guess you get keepers who the sort of understanding is that it's going to be defender's job to do as much of that business as possible, because that goalkeeper's not someone who is particularly comfortable charging off the line and doing it. Obviously, in an ideal world, you would have that, and I guess that the very best keepers are doing much more of that. I mean, my feeling on both Sels and the set piece situation, and Prutz may well tell me this is just absolute nonsense as someone who's never actually played a
please do, Prutz.
Yeah, at any level whatsoever. My feeling is it's probably all just indicative and symbolic of the general state of things, that things are a little bit chaotic and have been a little bit fluid, and there's been a lot of change and a real lack of confidence and all that sort of stuff. And some people will probably say that I'm giving players excuses and stuff, but I think that's just sort of how people work, isn't it? your performance all depends on your general sense of security and how clear-headed you are and all that sort of stuff. I think that defending set pieces in particular is often probably just a barometer of where you're at as a football club, whereas the intricate creative stuff that perhaps you're doing with innovative coaches and whatever is often going to be the attacking side of things. So I think we'll see natural improvement from that, as we're seeing natural improvement from the general structure of the team, the way that people are, the sort of interplay, the way people are working together and all that sort of stuff. It might be a bit slow and steady, and you'd hope that you can have an impact from, the organisation side of things and just, simple messaging and stuff. But I do think that a lot of that probably just goes with where you're at as a unit.
I think so. Just one more quick one on Sels. We were going off topic here. This wasn't even on my list to talk about, but Temps, the other thing I was going to ask about, the shot from Bruno Fernandes kind of worried me a bit. I mean, that wasn't exactly, it looked like a slow motion replay in real time almost. Is his footwork a little concerning? I don't know. We're not goalkeepers, but it's things that kind of are flagging up a bit, I think.
Shot with no power, wasn't it? He almost cut across it a bit, and he found his spot perfectly, hit the inside the post, and came back out again. But Bruno's a clever player, and he's got some technique around the way that he strikes a ball, and that probably did fly a bit the wrong way, kind of left to right, off the right foot, and did a little bit in the air, but it seemed to catch him cold. And Matt Sels isn't the same keeper at this point that he was last season. He's certainly not turning the defeats into draws and the draws into wins in the manner in which he did last season. But there's quite a lot going against him. I was looking at his passing accuracy, which is more a reflection of how much ball the striker's winning in the air, was really low, less than 30%. So we're conceding possession from his punt 70% of the time in that fixture. And there would have been more passing to the fullbacks last season. So he's getting used to a different role in this system as well. But I think it's a confidence thing. And while he's never been the one to command his box, he has to be that much stronger on his line, in his 6-yard box, when the cross is coming in, when the corner's coming in. There's been 2 or 3 instances now in the last 2 games where we've kind of expected him to be rooted to the line, but he's been targeted and he's found himself denied space, cramped in, under pressure from an opposing player, with us using a zonal marking system rather than man-to-man and not protecting our keeper in the manner in which he needs to be. He doesn't strike me as being the physically strongest. And I just wonder, I don't want him to become flying out for everything, to your earlier question, but I do want him to stand his ground, be a bit more physical, and use his hips and his shoulders to find that space in his own 6-yard box. Because when any goal conceded is analysed, his role in it is going to come under the microscope. And I think over the past few weeks, he hasn't hit the levels that he hit last season when he was one of the best goalkeepers in the Premier League, if not European football.
Well, he's still in my team anyway. Go on, Pete. Sorry.
I'm just going to say there's got to be quite a different mentality from being the Matt Sels of last season, who knows that he's got an unbelievably rock-solid defence in front of him that only concedes chances of, low chance of going in. It's a very different game he's playing at the moment, isn't it? He's sort of got to work out trying to be more dominant. He's got to be more proactive, and he's actually having to do a lot more work. Whereas before, really, he was the ultimate last line of defence. Teams weren't getting into good positions against us, and he was sort of pulling out these amazing one-on-one moments if somebody had just slipped past or whatever. I feel like the bigger concern personally for me than the sort of commanding side of things, because I think the defence improving will sort a lot of that out. The bigger concern is that the sort of long-range stuff, I don't think it's the first game. You mentioned the Fernandes opportunity. It's not the first game recently where he's just looked quite static and like he's perhaps not moving that well in anticipation of long-range shots. And the shot stopping has been a little bit less convincing. But again, I do fundamentally think that a lot of that stuff will just improve as the rest of the team improves, the sort of rising tide type theory. It's a confidence thing, I guess. I mean, it's basically been absolutely dreadful for the first number of weeks of the season, hasn't it? Like total mess off the pitch, total confusion on the pitch. I think we've probably got to try and understand that and give players a bit of leeway. And I think that goes across the team. We hear criticism about Kundoy, for example, one week or Gibbs-White the next or whatever. Personally, I think it's a case of judging those players a bit more reasonably in 15, 20 games from now and give them a chance to have some stability behind them and grow together.
It's a really good point, Pete, because when you look at what Sels did coming into the side and steadying what was a very questionable position for Forest for quite a while, wasn't it, with regards to who was the best goalkeeper, who was the more preferred goalkeeper. And I think as a level, everyone was performing above what their median was last season. And the questions, as you're saying, Pete, that gets asked of like a Morgan, obviously Morgan scored, which gets him hopefully up and running. But there's questions been pointed at him, questions been pointed at the defence that looks solid. And I do think it does filter down from the top. I mean, I've got no idea from a coaching point of view what Nuno's approach is, but the fact that Nuno was a goalkeeper, did he have daily input with Matt Sels? You know what I mean? Could he drop in little tidbits here and there? Because it's something that you don't really think about when you think about what a manager that was a former player, what his role actually was, because you always think about it from an outfield player point of view, I think. So there is an element in there where collectively the club has been on self-imposed shaky ground, which may have filtered down to the players. And it's not, I'm totally with you, Pete, about it's not letting the players off the hook, because you can have a bit of a wobble from a human being point of view. But now it's about being able to focus on doing what they're there to do professionally, which is to be reliable and responsible and consistent. So whether he's looking at the players in front of him thinking, I'm not sure what I'm going to get from them, and then the players in front are in turn looking behind thinking, well, Sels is not as solid as he was during large parts of last season, that element of trust has got to be worked back into the team to know that you can rely on your mate to do his job. So Murillo doesn't turn around and see his goalkeeper flapping, but also Sels sees Milinkovic come out, dominate the ball and head the ball out the 6-yard box. He doesn't have to come into that melee of players. So there is it's also wonderfully interlinked and connected together. I'm not saying that Forest, that then makes Forest a fragile squad of players, that when one has a wobble, it goes to the home team, the whole team. It shouldn't be that at all. But when we're looking for little reasons why that might be the case, that's why it is. But the professional side of it is, the slightly more tough love side of it is they need to sort themselves out defensively from a set piece point of view. And that can start with a goalkeeper. Lads, I'm not coming for this one. There's half a dozen of you already there. Make first contact. I'll deal with whatever comes towards the goal. And it simplifies what their jobs are. And the simplicity that comes with that focus can collectively guide a team into a better consistency.
Pete mentioned Dan and Doy getting some flack there. We'll do wingers tomorrow properly with Franz Carr, who's going to be the guest, and he knows more about wingers than, well, Pete, so no offence there.
I'll tell you that seems fair enough.
I mean, that's just a fact, Pete. That's not even a point, is it?
Yeah, you can't be offended by that. But Franz will tell us more about Ndoye and Hudson-Odoi and the wingers and what he makes of them. We'll get into the main match instance, the controversy next. Just before we do, a word for Trent Navigation. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see the offers that they have on this week, scrolling through the week. And if you're listening, do click the link in the description for everything that's on at the Nav. If you go to the game on Thursday before 5:30 p.m, you can get a free pint of Madri, and they do have discount pizzas on all day or all evening, I should say. So watch the game there if you're not watching on TV. And as we scroll through all the way till Sunday, I think it is the roasts that are on offer. So I'm going to ask the chaps very quickly, going around the room for their favourite roast meat, even though we're going way over time.
Why even do a big shop when there's something different at the Nav every single day?
For those prices as well, Temps.
It's cheaper than waiting.
Mind
There
blowing.
we go. Another clip in the bag for the Nav. Love it. Pete, turkey, beef, roast pork.
Oh, sorry,
Turkey's on its own. You can't chuck turkey in that because turkey's Christmas dinner. If you have it any other time of the year, that's mental.
Turkey's terrible as well. Awful.
Sorry, I was a bit taken back that we were actually doing this.
No, we didn't do it because I'd made my mind up we were going to do it. And you've got to do one word answer as well.
I'm going pork shoulder or lamb shoulder for me, please. Slow roast.
Ooh, nice. Temps?
Roast beef, nice and pink.
Nice. Pruts?
I've been swayed by the shoulder. Yeah, nice. I like that. A nice shoulder of lamb. Hey, I'll shoulder a lamb at the Blackburns next Sunday. Boom.
Oh, it's on.
Lamb for me as well. Definitely. Right.
Love the fact no one asked you.
No one asked me anything, do they?
All the vegans are going to be offended and battering you in the comments.
Not roasts are also good. So
are they?
I don't know. I've never had one.
No, normally we're going.
I'm just trying to be nice. You didn't need to make it more problematic.
Problematic. Ball going over the line or not going over the line. Just quickly, Pete, because I think everyone agrees. Surely everyone agrees they can't tell it gone out. Surely. So I don't know. VAR, does it need to get involved? Do refs need to take responsibility? What can we say about that? Because we obviously were on the wrong end of it again.
I'm the wrong person to ask because I just don't want any VAR. So it'd be odd for me to sort of argue for more of it. I do find it slightly mad that some of the stuff we do that takes so long is happening when something like that probably wouldn't take very long could happen. But I'm not going to argue for more VAR intervention in football because I think it's a stain on the game. For me, it's sort of obviously not a call that you can make, but these things happen. I don't know what more to say about it than that. Normally, I'd just totally shrug it off. The fact that it's happened to us 2 weeks in a row is a bit galling, but that's life, isn't it?
Mm.
So all I'll say about this particular type of tech is instantaneous. Ball crosses goal line, watch vibrates on referee's wrist, and he makes a call from there. That wouldn't have helped last week against Bournemouth when we know the ball went out, but we didn't see that it deflected back off the defender and should have been a goal kick. So there is a slight nuance there. But the technology exists for instant feedback on ball in or out of play. It's cost us last week.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Beef is winning the poll in the live chat, by the way.
This has gone so partridge now.
We're carrying on. Bit of venison, a shoulder of mutton as well. From
someone said fillet of beef as well, which I thought was just. I mean, that's really extravagant, isn't it? Yeah. The only reason I started reading the comments was about the meat.
There's some dollar knocking around in the comments.
I know.
There must be.
Get some Chateaubriand on the way.
Prutz, do you prefer watching as someone who watches Championship football, just from a general football fan point of view?
That was just so clearly about to be a which meat do you prefer question.
That was 100%.
Sorry,
it's a football question.
Start again.
Do you
Sorry.
prefer, as a football fan, watching Championship football or Premier League football as a product because of with VARs as a factor in that?
Good question, Matt. It does frustrate me in the sense of quite clearly the length that it takes to do a lot of what it's there for isn't great, and that knackers the rhythm of a game. It ruins celebrations. It ruins the spontaneity. Football, at its very best, is built on chaos, whether that's your team acting chaotically or acting on another team acting chaotically. That's where it comes from. Mistakes are part and parcel of the game. That what we saw on at the weekend becomes a debate, or is an elongated debate in the pub afterwards. If you don't have VAR or that type of technology, I totally get what Temps is saying with the GDS. GDS are quite obviously works from a technological point of view because it's inside the frame of what a goal is and how that is monitored and how you can monitor that. And then when you look at the decision that's made from a human being that's 60 odd yards away, and then the question, I was watching a little bit on Ref Watch this morning, and they were saying, the question saying, are they all in contact? I mean, it's such a, yes, all the officials can talk to each other all the way through the game, absolutely all the time. So the referee would have looked over at his linesman who's flagging, who's given the decision. He's relying on that linesman to give him the correct information that he believes that he's seen. Now, to see that through two posts and the body of Savona as well, and it not be a guess, I don't know. I'm not saying for 1 second there's anything sinister in it at all or anything like that, but he quite clearly has said, I think it's out. And I've seen it on multiple different angles where you're looking at from the top down, looking where the ball is, and it looks like it's marginally over the white line, but then you look at it from another angle where it's 10 centimetres off the ground. So it's nowhere near the line in real terms, but from different angles, it can look like that. What I'm saying is categorically ruled in or ruled out. If you can't do either way, you can't guess. You can't guess. You play on. You move on from that. And I think from an official's point of view, you hope nothing big comes from it. Yet the ball goes down. It's whipped in. It's put in the back of the net. Yes, lots of Forest frustration because of how they defended that. But because it is such a debate for that, I find it hard that you can concretely give it as a corner. But going back to the original question, which seems like ages ago now, sorry mate, but the intervention of what technology brings, I just do I understand it. I understand because there's lots of money invested in it. There's lots of big money invested in where teams end up in a season, whether it's in the Premier League, out the Premier League, what's in the European places, whether it's winning a title. I get all of that, whether it's you move into international football. I do get all of that, but you're looking for perfection where perfection doesn't exist. And the game isn't beautiful because it's perfect. It's beautiful because it's completely imperfect and chaotic. And we're trying to sterilize it a little bit.
475 people watching, and I'd like to thank them all for carrying on the Sunday Roast chat while Prutz was talking there in the chat.
It was a bit distracting, wasn't it?
It was. Paul Morley with a typically Paul Morley answer made me laugh.
We need, from Paul Morley, we need a wine pairing, and we will critique it live on air.
I'm sure. Paul Hennessy asks if I'm putting a picture where that annoying, for anyone with OCD, I appreciate that white thing over my shoulder is annoying. Yes, I will find a picture, Paul, certainly for you. The other instant temps that we didn't really talk about that much on the post-match show, we should have talked about it more, was the Ahmad handball appeal. Loads of Forest fans angry, saying it should have been a penalty, obviously rolled down his arm. Do you think it was, or was there a technicality that got him out of it because it might have hit his shoulder?
I don't understand the technicality of off the shoulder onto the arm, because the arm's in an unnatural position, right? It's flared out. It's hit his arm multiple times. If it hits his head, then his arm, or his foot, then his arm. Why is that different to shoulder, then his arm? If you slow down and ask the VAR black and white question, is this handball from an unnatural body shape? The answer has to be yes. So, yeah, I think that was a penalty. And I think if that penalty was given against my team and I'd seen that replay, I'd understand the reasons why it was given. So I think Sean Dyche and the players can consider themselves to be on the end of a bad call there.
Same question, Pete, but we'll probably have to press on after this. We're going way over here. Go on.
When you told me we were going to ask this question, I thought I better read the actual rules, because I don't think I've had any idea what the handball rules are for about a decade now, because they change all the time. And I thought there'd be like a maelstrom of madness, but actually on the IFAB rules on the FA website are actually pretty like simplistic and short. So there's sort of two that are in contention, I guess. One is about intent. I think that's probably quite hard to judge. And then the other one is what Temps talked about in terms of making your body unnaturally bigger. And that doesn't matter whether you're intending to do it or not. I mean, he's clearly done that. The third point is that it's this thing about not every single touch of the ball is a handball. And that's the one where I think it makes it a bit of a grey area. But I think it's hard. It's hard from those simple rules to see a ball rolling all the way down someone's unnaturally placed arm and then sort of flicking off their hand or wrist at the end in another movement and not think that should probably be a penalty for those rules.
Yeah, fair enough. Right, we shall move on. Good arguments. 33 minutes in and we still got loads to do. Morgan's goal, Prutz. It's a really good header. We criticised him because he can't shoot, which I think is fair. He can head a ball, though. Can we get 4 or 5 goals a season from Morgan as a kind of a late arrival in the box? I think we are going to get more crosses in like the one we put in. So could Morgan be a really useful weapon there?
Well, I mean, if he keeps heading the ball like that, absolutely yes. As you say, tremendous header. Gave the goalkeeper absolutely no chance at all. Whether it's come from an approach by Sean and the team to say, when you get a chance to put the ball in the box, put it in the box, because then you get players able to gamble like Morgan, thinking, well, if I go now, we've been told to get the ball in the box as quickly as possible instead of someone checking and waiting and coming back out again and trying to work their way back across. So therefore, you've got a player with attacking instincts, able to go and attack the ball and gamble as and when it's going to get there. So, yeah, I think if the quality is good, I mean, maybe from a Man United point of view, they'd question not necessarily the stature of Morgan, but I mean in the sense of a player such as that is good with his head, but not obviously domineering and towering over the opposition, whether you'd be happy with him getting 5 or 6 goals a season from a headed point of view as an opposition team. But I think the position that he found himself in, the ability to work the little bit of space and find the corner, I thought was absolutely spot on. So if he can rely on the service, and the service is very simplistic and straightforward, i.e. when you get a chance to put it in the box, put it in the box. And then Sean's probably saying, if you put it in the box and no one's there, I'll take it with the more attacking players. But if everyone's on the same page with getting the ball in the box early and options in the box, then absolutely, he could chip in with headed goals like that.
Let me just put up, this is from Will, WT Analysis. I thought it would be interesting to look at average positions to see how high Morgan played. And he did play high temps, and I'll ask you about his performance. But number 7 is Callum Hudson-Odoi, who was actually our most advanced player. And I thought that was really good tactics. To be positive and try and get in behind Ahmad. Savona also played quite high as well and scored the second goal, and thought he played well. But just feel free to weigh in on that, Temps, but also specifically on Morgan and his performance. Does it feel improved to you, even if I think he was at fault for the set-piece goals we conceded to some degree, but in general open play, did you see more from him?
Morgan got man of the match in the stadium, and I didn't agree with that. I think it
Really?
was, far better impact from him because he scored the goal and there were some touches there. His pass completion was still really low, lowest of the outfield players. And we forgive him some of that because he tries things, he puts the ball at risk, and he sees eyes of needles that he tries to thread. And with creative freedom comes the right to make some mistakes as well. He's not where he needs to be. And I still think he's one of the best 3 players in our squad. And I think he'll get back to where he needs to be. But that goal masks another performance in which he hasn't fulfilled the levels that he's capable of. And I'm still concerned that one of the reasons we're not playing well is because Morgan's not playing well. Now, is James McAtee going to come in and replace him? No, because he hasn't had any minutes. By some accounts, he's not as fit as he needs to be. And his ceiling isn't as high as Morgan's ceiling. He needs to play himself back into a position where he can help Forest to win matches. So whilst we did see some improvement from Morgan, the opening game of the season aside, I don't think we've seen a 90-minute spell where he's been anywhere near the levels that he delivered on last year. I don't know what it is. I think the role he's being asked to play is familiar to him, irrespective of those that are around him. I think he should by now be benefiting more than ever from having some of the quality of Elliot Anderson in and around him. And I think he will get back to where he needs to be. But I still don't see the Morgan Gibbs-White that we saw last season.
I thought he had a good second half. Once he scored, I thought he carried the fight much more and looked more confident. And I hope that's a sign of things to come. I was surprised he got man of the match in the stadium because I thought Anderson was absolutely fantastic. And Nico and both, Savona and Nico had really good games as well. It's interesting, Pete. We talked about winners and losers when Dyche came in, and we predicted a few. I mean, you didn't know they were going to pan out, but they sort of are a little bit. I'm thinking here of Yates and Sangare. It feels very much like Yates has climbed the pecking order. Sangare getting on 89th minute to try and shut things down. I suppose I'm asking you about each player there. What did you make of Yates, and what do you think the position Sangare's in now with Dyche? Is it set in stone or still time to turn it around?
Just quickly on the man of the match thing, I think we should just name Elliot Anderson man of time and then not worry about any more in future, to be honest.
Man of time.
I think it was an obvious prediction that a lot of us made about Ryan Yates sort of stepping up when Sean Dyche came in. Actually, I thought it might have been more prominent than it has been, and that perhaps he might even have ended up starting games instead of, a sort of Douglas Luiz, who might be seen as a not a luxury, because I think he does everything really, doesn't he? But perhaps someone who's a bit different to what Sean Dyche has used in the past, and Ryan Yates maybe more fulfills that sort of familiarity. But I was really pleased, as I said, I think after the first game, to see that wasn't the case, because it feels like picking our most talented 11, if possible, is a good place to start. But I think, look, Yates will be an obviously attractive proposition to Sean Dyche, and I think it was when they did the joint press conference. No, it probably wasn't then. It might have been when Yates won he got the shirt for his appearances to date. I think Sean Dyche talked about him as a player and as a sort of personality in the dressing room and the importance of that. And I think to some extent you probably have to reward that with appearances and involvement in actual football matches if it's going to really mean anything. The way you talk about Ryan Yates as being a sort of fulcrum, because ultimately he's not going to stay at the football club if he's not playing a part. So I think it's sort of fairly reasonable and understandable that Yates is playing a part. And to be honest, if I was going into a football club and I had such an obvious catalyst, the leader, someone who's sort of been through the whole place, through the whole journey, and has the respect of everyone, and who doesn't really let you down, even if he is not as accomplished as some other footballers, I think it's an easy win to get him involved, get him on side, use his leadership, and also bring him on in moments where you do need a bit of drive or energy or whatever. On Sangare, look, we talked about him so much over recent years. I don't think it's surprising that he's not flourishing under Dyche yet, or isn't being given a lot of responsibility, because I just think the thing really missing for him now that he's got fitness and is able to play games is just that bit of intensity, really. Sometimes it just feels like it's very easy for players to drift past him, and he's like so weak in the air often for a guy of his size. He's clearly got ability on the football, and I think that could be really useful to us, and maybe in certain moments, particularly if Douglas Luiz is not available for the foreseeable future. So he may well still have a role to play. I mean, the one that I'm looking at most, to be honest, and he wasn't in the squad last time out, is Dominguez, who I just think is a really fantastic footballer who's been really tremendously unlucky at Forest, to be honest. He sort of always had these streaky runs in and out of the team, and he never lets you down when he's in it. He's often doing 100 different jobs around the pitch. But when he had a run just playing with Elliot Anderson, I thought he justified his place. I'm slightly surprised to see him not on the bench, to be honest. So I think it'll be interesting to see. I presume he'll be one of those who starts on Thursday, hopefully, and gets a good stretch and maybe proves himself. Also, he looked like he's got a lovely steak barbecue and red wine selection at home from his recent Instagram pictures, which warmed me to him even further.
It's too much food chat today. Mark Harrison
asks a meat-themed episode, this, isn't it?
You might have to label this offensive for some people, actually.
Trigger warning incoming if you love animals.
Mark asks about McAtee, Callum, Wender and Hutchinson not making team. We'll probably pick up on that on Wednesday when we talk more about Graz, because they're going to be the big topic of conversation, Mark, I'm sure. On Yates and the midfield, Pruts, it feels to me like Dyche values Yates' positives. It feels like they outweigh his negatives, and Sangare's negatives outweigh his positives to me. I think that is Dyche a manager who places more stock in what Yates has to offer than what he can't offer?
Well, I mean this in the most sincere sense, but if you were looking at a kind of modern day Sean Dyche player, then Yates, he absolutely fits the bill, doesn't he? He emphasises what the manager wants. He replicates potentially what the manager wants on the pitch. And again, we've talked about Ryan for such a long time on here, and his relative merits both in the Championship and in the Premier League. And I absolutely do believe, not just because the times that I've met him, he's a lovely fella, and he absolutely bleeds for us, doesn't he? But he's worth. He's in the when he gets in the team, like we saw on Saturday. It's a merit-based side of it, because yes, there's a bit of fortune of getting on the pitch, but once you're there, you've got to do your job, and more often than not, he does, doesn't he? There might be things that sometimes you focus on that Ryan Yates can't do in the Premier League, but I think we've got to start moving beyond that and look at what he does do, both as an individual and for the team. And maybe a cynic would say, well, of course, David Prutton of a certain vintage would buzz off a player that seemingly tear asses around, you know what I mean, does a lot of things, but then doesn't do a lot of other stuff, which isn't quite exactly, which is the sexy stuff that comes with football. But I know for a fact, having a teammate like him would be a pleasure. It would really have an effect on the atmosphere in a dressing room and on a football pitch. And as much as we've discussed the upgrading over the last year or so of Forest's squad, because we did discuss last season where the first 11 cracking, there was a drop off from that. And again, there's something that's mentioned in the comments, which is really, really quite pertinent about talking about the squad and not seeing enough of these other squad players that have been brought in to bulk it out with a bit more quality. But I think Yatesy more than holds his own with the players that have come in. Yes, Douglas Luiz is a different type of player with a different type of pedigree. Totally get that. But what Nuno did so well was gel a team together with chemistry and ability, which is what we're looking at now. We're looking at a team that needs to come together with the sum of its parts to get the best out of itself. And having someone like Yates in that, wonderful ball, as we've discussed, and being the kind of beating heart of what Sean wants. Because he has got to get back to that. Going back full circle to what we started out with the conversation about where we find Forest and what the broader media perception is of them. You've still got to be looking over your shoulders and in and around the teams that are in a similar tricky position. And you've got to simplify what the message is, which is about hard work, which you can never come away from that. And the hard work foundation allows those players that can change a game, like a Morgan, like the wingers, to be able to go and flourish and express themselves. But that doesn't come without the hard work. It doesn't come without the base to be able to work forward from and a good defence. And I think, as I said, from an organisational point of view, Ryan ticks so many boxes. He gets around the pitch. And if he can start producing those types of crosses on a regular basis, you might have a newfound wing spot for him, which obviously would be slightly different to the out-and-out pace that Forest have had over the last 2 years. But yeah, I think he more than merits a place in that side. And judging on what you see would be a stereotypical Sean Dyche player. And I mean that purely in a complimentary way, because he has facilitated the careers of so many good players that have gone up a level under him in the Premier League. Ryan does fit that, I think.
The other one to mention, Temps, which it leads into, is Douglas Luiz, who's quite obviously a quality player and stands out when he plays, but he can't really stay fit. There was a report when he was at Juventus, which I haven't heard anyone at Forest talk about, but saying he's got a condition called intramuscular edema, which is a problem that can come and go. And it didn't seem to affect him at Villa, so I don't know if it's right or not, but he has picked up multiple injuries, muscular injuries at Juventus and now Forest. According to reports, if he plays 15 games over 45 minutes or more per appearance, we have to buy him for like 20 million quid or something. He's currently on 6. Any temptation to have that in your thinking?
Hang on, sorry to interrupt. 15 games of more than 45 minutes?
45 minutes or more, and he's played 6 so far.
Right, so and how much does that turn it into from a permanent transfer point of view?
25 million euros, I think.
So 7 full games, and it's then 25 million that you're incumbent on paying.
Yeah, another 9 or whatever it is. Yeah.
I mean, whoever's done his side of the contracts, they've done wonderfully there, aren't they? If he's prone to missing large periods of football.
Well, do you not? I mean, Temps, do you not pick him now? I mean, obviously, it's quite early, and he might be fine from here. But once he gets to 13 or 14 games, is there a decision to make?
I'd pick him. I think that's a straightforward hamstring that he's had at the weekend. I don't know enough about this chronic situation he has with that condition, but yeah, it looked to me like he pulled his hammy, and it's 3 weeks and back in you come. I think that a fully fit Douglas Luiz adds a lot because he can plug in around the players that he's with, and he's always going to have comfort on the ball. He sees things that lesser players don't see, uses it well. And whilst he has that little bit of magic in his boots, he just does the basics like repeatedly without making mistakes. I think that the poise that he has allows us to get the best out of Elliot Anderson and Morgan Gibbs-White. And it wasn't long ago that I think a fair few of us were calling for this being the Dream 3 selection in centre mid for Forest, to give you total dynamism between the boxes, an ability to play any style that you like, and make sure that there are no passengers, no one just there to carry the piano while everyone else is playing it. And I hope that he can get himself back into the side and get the consistency of fitness and performance which justifies that transfer, because he's not going to play championship football next year, and there's always going to be someone willing to pay Douglas Luiz. He's worth 20 million quid in anybody's book if he's fit and firing and contributing every week. And I think that the fact that 3 managers now have picked Douglas Luiz when he's fit demonstrates the regard in which he's held, and the manner in which the mix of him alongside those other 2 that we mentioned can be ideal if Forest are going to get on a run. So yeah, I'm still behind Douglas Luiz. This is another unfortunate injury setback for him, but I expect him to get fit and come back into that side and stay there.
Just to round that off on Luiz, because I don't know, I've not seen that report anywhere else, but I've seen it a couple of times from that reference from that one report in Italy. But in terms of actual injuries he's had since he joined Juventus, muscle fatigue 49 days, muscle problems 9 days, muscle fatigue 9 days, hamstring injury 41 days, 22 days thigh problem at Forest, and now this injury as well. So that's I think that's 6 or 7 injuries over the course of just over a season. So it's definitely something to be, I don't know what the word is, cautious of. I'm not sure, but he's such a top player.
He's a fantastic footballer, but it's all well and good being a fantastic footballer. But if you only see that wonderful ability sporadically, then that's not necessarily what we believe to be, as a collective, what Forest were after. Surely, the next step for Forest, off just missing out on the Champions League, was players that can play at a consistently higher level across different campaigns, whether it's the Premier League, whether it's in Europe, whether it's domestic cups as well. And if there's any form of debate in that, or reticent. And maybe you look at that with how that deal's structured, Matt, by virtue of signing a player with that kind of, let's see what he's like, loan term going into then becoming incumbent on paying for him. That does put it slightly in Forest's favour. But it's it just makes you think, because there's players that, and again, it's not this like the Ryan Yates fan club, because obviously Yatesy would even himself say that Douglas Luiz, technically, you're looking at a better footballer. That's not a new fact, is it? That's not blowing anyone's mind, the fact that he is in a lot of instances better, but it's about being effective. And your effectiveness begins by your ability to be fit and consistent and able to play. And if Douglas isn't going to be that for Forest, then that's going to be an area of real frustration and concern.
I think the problem with Douglas Luiz, I'm sorry to be the boring one who always says this, is that, based on talent, I don't think there's any question whatsoever that he is in our best team and that we'd all desperately want to watch him play at the City Ground for as long as possible. But you have to take into account whether he's going to be available or not, simply because of the finances. And the 20 million quid's only one part of it, but he's also, I think, probably our second highest earner. And taking on those wages is a very, very big gamble for Forest, and particularly a Forest that are going to be in PSR situation come the end of this period, where we'll have to make tough decisions to do it. And you don't want to be selling players like Elliot and Anderson and such like to be funding players who you're not sure if you're even going to play for you. So it's going to be a question. Personally, I'd give him all the time you possibly can to prove that he can do it, because he's so good. But if it gets to hairy time with that contract clause, I think you have to think very carefully about the future, because that's a big financial commitment for Forest for 27, 20, well, it'll be 28 then, 28-year-old who might not be able to play much football.
And he is that good that you think, Juventus were desperate to get rid. You think there would have been a queue of clubs waiting to sign him, really, and there wasn't really, which makes you think, why? So I don't know. I'm sort of speculating there, but he's a top talent, but you're only as good as you're available, I guess. So if you can only play 20 games a year, you're not that useful in that sense. So yeah, definitely something to watch. Right, quick word of thanks for Global Telemetrics, and then we'll wrap things up by talking about Leeds and Graz in 30 seconds.
Forest Focus viewers, you may have seen what we've actually done over the past year in regards to vehicle theft. You might have those feelings of that it will never happen to me, or it won't happen to my car. Did you know that the most stolen car last year was a Ford Fiesta, and Global Telemetrics has noticed a big uptake of thefts in the Nottinghamshire area? Don't be another "it won't happen to me." Drop us an email on how we can protect your vehicle.
Thanks very much, Global Telemetrics. Check the link in the description and learn more about what they can do.
What's the name of that company, Matt?
I don't know.
Global Telemetrics.
I thought if anyone's going to have sympathy for me, it's going to be Prutz, who does live TV all the time.
And I mess it up all the time. That's why I always pick other people. Well, a big thanks to the Global Telemetrics. Wasn't for that shout out, were they?
No, I'm still billing them. Right. Let's just talk quickly about Graz and Leeds. We'll get into the specifics. I'm surprised I could say that word, of team selection on Wednesday. But just in general, Temps, I don't know, big week ahead. Like, it can really shift the momentum either way into another international break, can't it?
Of course it can. I think that the manner in which Daichi is judged, such as the nature of football and the lack of time that anyone is afforded, they are pretty seismic games. And I think reality bites a little bit here, because he can't keep going on and selecting the same 11 players through necessity now. Jesus is banned. Woody's not quite right. So it's probably Kalimuendo up top. Hutchinson, Taiwo aren't registered for Europe. So he needs to start thinking about how he's going to use these resources between these two games. And Leeds is by far the more important of the two. And I hope that the selections will reflect that. But I do see a situation in which we come out of, let's say we draw at Sturm Graz and beat Leeds. We've managed the squad correctly. More players feel empowered and involved, having been involved in one or both of those fixtures. And all of a sudden, we're 2 unbeaten in the league. We're in a decent enough position in the European group, and we can start to look forward with a bit more confidence. That's how quickly things can change in football. From the desperation and the dire straits of 2 weeks ago to where these two games could take us. On the flip side, 2 defeats Players are questioning what's happening. There's moaning about those that aren't in the team. There's a very different atmosphere in and around the training ground. So it feels seismic. But I'm going to put it out there and say we're going to get a win and a draw this week. I kind of sense it's going to be a win against Leeds, and through the nature of the teams that we have to select to manage our resources, it might be a tough place to go to Graz and to win. But that would be a successful return for me. Got to build on this platform we've got something out of the Man United game. Let's not throw it away. Let's kick on from here and put some pride back in our badge.
Well, I'd much rather beat Leeds and have any result against Graz. If it's one result that I'm bothered about, it's certainly that one. Pete, your thoughts on what's to come?
Pretty hard to argue with any of that, I think, to be honest. The Leeds one obviously feels particularly big given positions of both of the teams, and also I think because it's just on the precipice of another break, and if you can go into that with the real momentum of a point against United, a good point, and an incredibly valuable 3 points against Leeds, I suspect everything feels pretty different for all the players going away with, much lighter pressure on the shoulders and all that sort of stuff, and everyone in and around the city ground and the training ground. So I think it'd be pretty enormous. I guess I would generally caution against putting too much pressure on what is ultimately just one game out of quite a lot more to come. I think we really can't afford to lose it, though. That starts to make you feel pretty grim about things. So yeah, 3 points against Leeds would be magnificent. Definitely can't lose it, really. Europe will be interesting. I think we just have to view it as a really good opportunity to see some players stake a claim now. And we really need that, I think, because, we spent big on having a squad and having talent in depth, and we've just not been able to see it yet. I think almost entirely down to the fact that we've been constantly churning through managers, and really there's not been any time to blood new players. It's been a sort of case of just getting through it for everyone who's been in charge. So I think I'd see it as a really good opportunity to see the likes of McAtee. Hopefully Dominguez can play, Sangare can get minutes, maybe Morato comes in. I think in a dream world, what I'm probably looking at, and some people will say, it's defeatist, really, you should be going into Europe hoping to win the competition and winning all the games and all that sort of stuff. I just think the Leeds game is so much more important in this moment for what it could do for the rest of the season, that I think I'm going into the Graz game looking to protect as many of the key players as I possibly can, to be honest. I probably wouldn't even take Elliot Anderson there if I don't have to. Leave him at home in like Eden Hall or something, getting his feet rubbed. I think there's some areas where you can't do anything about it. One or both of the wingers who played at the weekend will have to play probably. Maybe they could share 45 minutes each. Gibbs-White might have to play because I think it's unlikely we play without a 10. But maybe you can get Yates, Sangare and Dominguez to play. And then I think you can probably rest Murillo because he's obviously constantly terrifying everyone with his limping around the pitch, and it doesn't feel like we need to see that. So Morato in there. The fullbacks is the difficult area, I think, because we just haven't got many options. And it's going to have to come to a point where Nico isn't constantly being asked to play every single minute of every game. But I feel we may still be there at the moment. But yeah, look, I think it's opportunity, isn't it? There's so many players of, genuine renown and high price tags and all that sort of stuff who must be champing at the bit. So fingers crossed we can see a bit of that.
Have you seen much of Leeds this season, Prutz? I've seen bits of them. They look fine. Obviously, they've done better than us, so they must be, a good opponent. But are they that good? Do you think we should be able to beat them?
Yeah, I do think Forest can beat them. On evidence of obviously what we saw for them against Brighton, I think they've frustrated at times with regards to how the squad's been put together and what that squad is capable of. I think there's still a very heavy assumption that anywhere near kind of safety is a wonderful season for them, which I think is absolutely right. There's still a fair chunk of players there that did a decent job in the Championship. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, I think the jury's still out on him, which I think is fair to say, given his goal return. But I don't think it's a Leeds side that should absolutely terrify Forest. And I think that would go both ways. I think Leeds possibly look at Forest starts the season, the upheaval with managers, etc., key players missing through injury, and fancy themselves in that game. So even though you're talking about a team where there is a slight points differential and obviously a couple of spaces within the division, and one team just operating under the dotted line. I think it's a fairly evenly balanced game. But going in the context of what the week is, I absolutely agree with everyone and a lot of the comments as well about keeping a focus on Sunday, about that being the bigger game. But again, there is that slight, and it's maybe sad's not the word, but given what was such a wonderful thing at the back end of last season, and forgive me for looking back, and then going into this season, to almost be at the position now where European football is there to kind of keep people ticking over rather than something to really go and enjoy and celebrate. Just goes to show how quickly things have changed in the opening couple of months, doesn't it really? But that's the past, it's gone. Decisions were made, management were changed, players have been recruited, and what Forest have right now is an ideal opportunity to build on a Man United large portions of the performance, frustration with the eventual result, but absolutely fancy themselves against a Leeds United side, which is capable of being dangerous, but is also very capable of being inconsistent.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Graz is still a good opportunity for like a McAtee to really, if he goes and scores a goal and plays really well, then he's going to be pressing his case even more. So hopefully we see that, certainly. Michael Temple, any final thoughts, anything you want to add before we go?
Like all been said, really positive weekend for Forest, all things told, from the point of arresting decline, finding some stability. Let's build on it from here.
Pete Blackburn?
Nothing for me to add. It's been a pleasure to appear on Nottingham's first meat podcast. Hopefully many more of these to come. More meat than my local butcher's down in Bingham, I think, today, but it was sort of fun. Sorry for all the vegetarians and vegans who had to suffer through this mess.
No, they weighed in as well. I mean, whenever Prutz is on, it's never a normal show, so yeah, we'll blame Prutz.
So it's always meat-based, isn't it, when I rock up?
Prutz, any final thoughts from you?
No. Just again, once again, thanks for having me on, and it's never a dull moment, really, is it? Whether it's up, down, or in the middle with Forest, it's certainly keeps us all entertained and excited.
That is very true. Right, we shall be back tomorrow, as mentioned, with France Carr. Wednesday, match preview with Greg and Matt Davies Adams. Post-match show on Thursday with Sam, Collins and Mark and Temps, I think, as well. And then we'll look ahead to the weekend with Dan Story and Mikey on Friday. Michael Temple, thank you very much.
Cheers, fellas. See you soon.
Pete Blackburn, thank you very much.
Cheers, guys.
David Prutton, thank you very much.
Cheers, gang.
Have a good day, everyone. Do hit like before you go. And if we don't see you tomorrow, we shall see you soon.